prescription pills scattered on the counter of the body showing signs of mummification. Based on what you know about the conditions of both the bodies, who do you believe died first?
That's a very hard thing to determine because that's a question that we want to answer.
With so much so unknown, no tributes to the two-time Oscar winner pouring in. Dustin Hoffman calling him a giant among actors. Unforgiven co-star Morgan Freeman recommended working with him in one of the personal highlights of my career. After retiring, Hoffman and his wife have lived a quiet life in Santa Fe, a place he reportedly grew to love while filming westerns there earlier in his career.
We are heartbroken over this. It's an end of an era of this generation of actors, and that's heartbreaking as well.
And Liz, officials just wrapped up a press conference. What else are we learning?
Well, Lester, there's still many more questions and answers right now. We still don't know how the dog died. We're still awaiting the toxicology reports. They're hoping that data from the cell phones they took from the homes will help them determine who they may have last had contact with or who may have died first. But they say the couple was very private, making this whole investigation even more challenging. Let's start.
Liz Kreutz tonight. Thank you. This evening, a new warning from the CDC about measles as cases spread to more states. The worst outbreak in West Texas, where 20 people have been hospitalized. With more, here's Sam Brock.
Tonight, there are now more than 160 measles cases in 10 states, with Kentucky and Washington reporting their first patients. But Texas has seen by far the most infections, 146 statewide, and the death of a 6-year-old child. San Antonio officials warning hundreds, if not thousands of people may have been exposed by a recent infected visitor.
I want to take this podium to send a plea out and urge the community. We say this in every phone call we get. If you are sick, please stay home. Don't go to the movie theater. Don't go to, large restaurants.
How infectious is measles?
Measles is the most infectious virus that we know of right now.
Dr. Ronald Cook oversees public health in Lubbock, Texas, a city where 20-plus children are currently hospitalized.
That's a significant number. We consider children and young adolescents, young teenagers to be our healthy patient population.
One mom in Lubbock who grew up in a developing country telling us why she's rushing to get her daughter vaccinated.
I got measles as a kid because there was no vaccine. But here in America, basically it's free and accessible, and yet people choose to ignore it.
The CDC just issuing its first advisory since the outbreaks began in early February, including this reminder: vaccinations remain the best defense against measles infection. Dr. Caitlin Baston is New Jersey's health commissioner, another state that's seen an outbreak.
It's critical to me that families can trust the information they're getting from health professionals. So I will tell you, again, vaccines are safe and effective. This is not up for debate.
And late today, Austin officials also announcing their first measles case since 2019, a baby.
Maswerte tayo ng dahil sa doon, maaari na natin makita ang mga bagay-bagay sa mundo mula sa birds.
Imagine stepping into a paradise where lush rainforests meet
Maswerte tayo ng dahil sa doon, maaari na natin makita.
You won't believe how old this couple is.
Excuse me, I ask people who are in really good shape what kind of diets they're on. Do you mind if I ask what types of food you usually eat?
Sure. We really...
CNN's Caitlin Collins was in the Oval Office for this meeting. Caitlin, it's hard to imagine a scenario in which this could have gone worse. This seems to be a dream come true for Vladimir Putin.
Well,
it's Friday night, guys. Friday afternoon, guys.
Inside the Oval Office,
between these world leaders essentially shouting at one another by the end of this, devolving into the points Trump and Vance berating Zelensky for saying that he was not being grateful enough for the aid the United States has provided Ukraine, and Zelensky arguing back that they do not understand Putin essentially, that he will violate.
It's Friday night, guys. Friday afternoon, guys.
As you made the argument there, and Trump was essentially pushing back on that and telling Zelensky that he had no cards and that he needed to make a deal. And at one point, I think there was a striking line from that could foreshadow what the rest of these talks are going to look like, what this press conference could look like if we still see these world leaders come out where they were supposed to sign that deal. Is the president said to Zelensky, you either make a deal or we are out. Now that comes after 40 minutes before this exchange happened, where the president was talking about how he wasn't ready to make security guarantees for questions going back and forth about how a deal would hold, how a minerals deal would be carried out. All of that was essentially wiped away by those last 10 minutes that were so incredibly heated there in the Oval Office, and essentially ended with Vance saying that this is not something that should be litigated in front of the press, the many press who were inside that room. Trump saying that he thought it was actually good that it was playing out. And I asked Trump as we were leaving, can the two of you still negotiate given what we just watched? That left everyone else in the room silent. He told me, quote, we'll see. But just to give you a sense of how much things broke down, look at this picture of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. She has been the ambassador to the U.S., as you know, since 2021, since before Russia invaded Ukraine. She had her head in her hands at one point when I looked around the room and was just looking at all of the officials here. Secretary of State Rubio, Treasury Secretary Bessent, the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Commerce Secretary, they were all in the room, and Ukrainian officials as well, watching this play out and raising real questions about what the two leaders here are going to be able to get done behind the scenes. This is the photo of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States as they were just shouting at one another between the three of them in an incredibly remarkable moment.
Trump doesn't seem to think that the sting of Putin is going to reach the United States. He rejected the idea, emotionally rejected the idea that Zelensky was presenting, that there will be effects here in the United States, that it will be felt here. What do you think?
This started innocently enough, the same way the French and the British leaders came and pushed back gently on Trump. Zelensky had started giving a history lesson about how Putin first seized Crimea in 2014. Trump corrected him, said 2015. He's like, no, 2014. And then explained how they had signed two different peace deals with Putin, Minsk I and Minsk II, that Germany and France also signed to guarantee. And what he was trying to do was show Trump, we have tried to do diplomacy before and it hasn't worked. He was being very genteel and patient as he explained it, and it was Vance who took offense and started interjecting, and then it was Vance as he warmed up to his subject, who then also interjected I haven't heard you say thank you once. It was almost like he was bawling out one of his young kids, and he warmed to his subject. And once it became that tone, Trump took that tone on and jumped into the attacks. And I don't know how you get from that back to, look, we can't trust Putin, and here's why. I can only imagine what it was like once they all went into a conference room and had to look at each other across the table. And what did you think as you were watching this, Jeff?
It's pretty shocking. What I think really stands out to me is that this administration grossly overestimates its ability to bring about a deal. I completely agree with the point that you can't trust deals made with Russian President Putin. But I take it a step further than that and say, as long as Russian troops are advancing in the east, and they are, and he believes he's winning, you're not going to get a meaningful deal. In the sense, by meaningful, I mean like some kind of lasting peace. So I don't even think they're going to get to the point where he violates the deal.
So why would he proceed in that regard, you mean?
Yes, none of the strategic objectives about changing the government in Ukraine and really controlling the strategic direction of Ukraine, none of that has changed. As long as he thinks he can do that by what he's doing right now, he's going to keep doing that. And the rest of the negotiations with him, that's just smoking mirrors.
My impression is that basically Trump's national security team, people like Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they're very traditionalist they're anti-Russia, but like past Trump administration officials, they sold Trump on this deal through the lens of business, through the lens of making investments for U.S. companies possible, leveling the playing field with China, because China has 70% of the rare earth minerals, and this would give the U.S. a jump on some of that. But the whole idea was, this was something to build on. Sign this loose agreement, then that goodwill would make Zelensky look like the good guy who made Trump look good, and we would build on that from there. And now this all just got blown up, and you can see a lot of the messages that he had absorbed, that Trump had absorbed from his conversation with Putin, just coming out. I don't know how you talk down from this.
What about just that glimmer of hope that Nick Walsh alluded to, the idea that Donald Trump, as a negotiator, would respect someone that would hold a hard line against him, that Zelensky going in there and standing his ground, even at one point as cameras were being escorted out, smiling and giving a thumbs up to the cameras, sort of as if to show that he's not intimidated by the situation, that his country isn't on the line. Would that work to his advantage? Do you see that as a possibility?
I don't, and I think that I understand that Trump likes to be up against somebody that he respects. But what you're seeing is a real shift in U.S. foreign policy back a moment, where he respects Putin, he respects Xi Jinping, China, and those are the people he wants to deal with. Anybody else is just not an equal, right? And so in some ways, the foreign policy that's emerging is actually very similar to Chinese and Russian foreign policy, in that in the world you have a couple centers of gravity where the real power is. We'll work things out amongst us, and like all the rest of the country just need to fall in line. I won't mess with your area, you don't mess with my area, and we'll just straight it out ourselves. And Zelensky doesn't rise to that level in Trump's eyes.
Watch his popularity ratings back home. They're going to soar. They're at 65, they're going to be higher. And European nations who were thinking about, oh, we got to go it alone, after watching that spectacle, they're going to be like, okay, it's us in Ukraine. You cannot come on this White House.
Let's talk a little bit more about that with CNN Chief International Anchor Christian Amanpour. Let's talk, Christian, about how European leaders are going to view this moment.
Well, look, I think just what your guest just said is going to be you can imagine everybody in Europe now has their head in their hands, particularly after the parade of European presidents and prime ministers just came back from fairly successful meetings with President Trump. They never got what they wanted in terms of a security guarantee for Ukraine, because that's what they really need if there's to be any peace. But now they're going to be wondering, is there going to be any deal to even police and to enforce? Are we just going to have to continue funding and supplying this war? What I can tell you is the British Prime Minister has announced that he is having a summit in London this weekend on Sunday. He's invited all the major European leaders, and President Zelensky was due to be coming back from Washington via London to take part in that summit. This was, designed to, compare notes, all their trips to the White House, how to go forward. I don't know whether that will still happen. I don't know what they might discuss. It seems it's even more urgent for that summit to take place, given what just happened in the White House. Look, from a European and overseas perspective, what seems to have happened was this very strange way of having long, over ethics sprays with the press, where they do talk for a long time. It's not new. This is, you saw the Zelensky handshake as he met with President Trump. He was incredibly tense. Zelensky's body language, very tense, knew everything that was
It's Friday night, guys. Friday afternoon, guys.
In the last 10 minutes. And as everybody has said, launched by the intervention of the Vice President. Vice President J.D. Vance, this year in Munich, basically, washed his hands of Ukraine. Last time he was in Munich at the security conference, basically told Europeans and Ukrainians that I don't care really much what happens to Ukraine. So there's some animosity there, as you can imagine. Untruths about Zelensky never saying thank you, and a very, twisted and tortured version of what's actually been going on during this war. But I think, as many people said, Zelensky's main aim, as he said himself, but I want to ask what the US is prepared to do going forward. And perhaps I need to ask, whose side is the Trump administration on?
Friday night, guys. Friday afternoon, guys.
Was much more of the United States administration, the president and the vice president, taking all the Putin talking points and being frustrated with Zelensky and using those talking points. That, in terms of the transatlantic alliance, in terms of the superpower going forward, is really the major shift that everyone overseas has been incredibly concerned about. And it also seems to be a performance for domestic politics. What President Trump and Vice President Vance were doing, it seemed, was as much a domestic political campaign appearance as anything else. I mean, at one point you heard President Trump going back on the Russia hoax and the Hunter Biden laptop and on and on and on. There is bad blood between these two leaders from the very beginning. But again, let's not forget that it was the javelins that Trump did provide that allowed Ukraine to fend off the Russians in those early days. Very important. These weapons were. But let's also not forget that it was Trump who convinced his MAGA allies in Congress this time last year to pause the latest delivery of weapons to Ukraine, and that was a 7-month lag, which cost territory, which cost lives, and which has put Ukraine in a very bad place. But to keep hearing the President of the United States tell the Ukrainian president and the people of Ukraine who fought this much mightier army off for 3 years that they have no cards to play, that they either take a deal and make a deal or the United States is out, this is music to President Putin's eyes. Music.
Humanity first brings my swallow. 48 hours of odor and wellness protection. Swallow. No nonsense self-care from that.
That was in Chad.
Probably should chill out.
Yeah, he definitely needs Jed.
Feeling under the weather? Be prepared with oscillococcinum for flu-like symptoms. It's the first sign of body aches, chills, fever, and fatigue, so you can feel like yourself again. Oscillococcinum by Boron.
Hey, promo seeker, when you buy one big pile of spicy chicken sandwich, you can get a second for just one more. Yeah, any combination you're breaking, the second is just one. It's Friday night, guys. Friday afternoon, guys.
We're joined now by Massachusetts Congressman and member of the Armed Services Committee, Seth Moulton. Congressman, thank you for being with us. What's your reaction to this deal being to the sort of office meeting that we watched unfold as dramatically as it did, and to the press conference now being canceled and the future of Ukraine in question?
Well, look, I've just been sitting here listening to these British guys ramble on. Let's just cut to the chase. The President of the United States is a coward who is riding Putin's clout. The Vice President of the United States is a toad and a coward who is Donald Trump's puppet. And so what we just witnessed was a meeting in the Oval Office between two cowardly puppets and a hero. And when the authorities show these puppets enough, it's probably America. As a fellow American, it's just embarrassing that the only hero in the Oval Office, the only decent human being for that matter, is the Ukrainian. I mean, this administration is going to go down as an embarrassment to American history.
Congressman, I wonder if you think that President Zelensky could have handled it differently, the way that some of his European counterparts, Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer did, and perhaps been more deferential to Trump and Vance.
Deferential to what? Deferential to a president who allowed a deal in his first term to crumble because Putin just violated it? Deferential to a vice president who didn't even bother to visit Ukraine? I hardly know anyone in Congress who has any view on national security
who hasn't been to Ukraine during this war. Deferential to a draft dodger who's our commander in chief. Zelensky doesn't deserve to be deferential to anyone in that Oval Office. In fact, I kind of wish he put them in their place a little bit stronger. I mean, this is just truly, truly embarrassing. And the vast majority of my Republican colleagues in Congress completely agree with me. They know the truth here. They're just too scared to say it themselves.
Congressman, I do wonder how you would react to the suggestion by J.D. Vance that there was a lot of chest thumping and harsh words for Putin in the last administration, but not enough action. Do you think that the Biden administration should have provided Ukraine with stronger weapons sooner in order to prevent where we are right now?
Look, I have been a fair critic of both Democrats and Republicans, and a critic of some aspects of how Biden handled this war. And yes, I think that he should have given them more weapons faster. But the idea that Vance and Trump, who are literally sucking up to a dictator, who want Putin apparently to win this war, the idea that they would criticize Biden, I think that's, that's real rich. That's real rich.
Where do you think this goes from here, Congressman? Do you think U.S. aid to Ukraine is immediately at risk?
It's unquestionably at risk. I mean, everything we stand for as Americans, the very fundamental value of freedom, is at risk with what these two are doing. But the other risk that we shouldn't ignore, and J.D. Vance brought it up, is World War III.
It was difficult to hear there. President Zelensky, as he was exiting the White House, clearly yelled at cameras, but it was hard to make out exactly what he was saying. It appears that he is in that vehicle just outside the West Wing and is set to depart the White House in moments after this explosive afternoon in which we've seen this deal between the United States and Ukraine crumble, and then a shouting match inside the Oval Office. Congressman, if you want to finish your thoughts as we await Zelensky's departure.
Well, I just said that, look, the risk that this actually could be a wider war involving NATO is real because Putin is getting emboldened by the President of the United States and by the Vice President of the United States. Because the way this becomes a wider war is for Putin to get the message that he wins. That he can go and invade sovereign countries with impunity and go do it to Eastern European NATO allies next. And that will get American troops killed, not just innocent Europeans. American troops will die if that happens. So what Trump and Vance are doing is absolutely dangerous for our national security, not just dangerous for Ukraine.
Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton, we have to leave the conversation there, but we appreciate you joining us. I want to go to the White House now with CNN's Jeff Zeleny, who is watching closely as this vehicle departs. Jeff, were you able to make out what Zelensky yelled to cameras?
We were not able to make that out for us. We will go back and listen, but it was nothing extraordinary or long. But what we are seeing here now is President Zelensky leaving the White House about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so after he arrived, without getting a deal and without doing a press conference with President Trump to sign the deal. You will see right here the motorcade going behind us as we speak, driving out of the north gates of the White House. What this is an extraordinary breakdown in diplomacy, the biggest break and change in foreign policy. Let's listen right there. So as you could see there, we were re-racking that tape. I could not make out what President Zelensky was saying, but now he has left the grounds of the White House, and indeed, we shall see what comes from here. He did stay in the West Wing of the White House for some minutes after President Trump said, "Come back when it's time for peace." So we do not know if there were any further discussions. We will certainly do our reporting and let you know. But this moment busy week of diplomacy here has ended in anything but that. And interestingly, right before President Zelensky came to the White House here, he met with a bipartisan group of senators, and Republican Senator Roger Wicker, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, welcomed him and he said, "We're here to show you our support." That is not how President Zelensky leads this White House. So certainly this is a breach in foreign policy protocol, but also really showing the split inside this Republican Party, the party of Donald Trump and the party of J.D. Vance. We have not seen Vice President Vance really speak up much at all during his opening weeks of his vice presidency, but that moment in the Oval Office certainly is resonating and reverberating around the world. But now he is gone. They are breaking down the room with a press conference, and deal was scheduled to be announced. And that certainly is not how even President Trump wanted this day here to end. We shall see if this is a negotiating tactic. We do not know how long President Zelensky will stay in town. President Trump clearly does still want to make a deal, but those tensions and fiery exchanges certainly have been deep.
We're standing up for our right to be lazy.
By sitting down.
And reclining bed.
We work full time and parent full time.
We will be reclining until further notice.
It's our right to let the dishes soak overnight.
And to mow the lawn tomorrow if we wish.
We proudly declare that yes, we are still watching that.
And no, we will be busy today.
We, the lazy, are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy boy, long live the lazy.
Round up spare change into saving stocks of Bitcoin when you use your Cash App card.
Give me 17 cents on Bitcoin.
Tonight, an American Airlines flight from JFK to Delhi forced to divert fighter jets escorting its Rome. Officials tell ABC News there was a bomb threat, and the future of millions of federal workers is in limbo amid mixed messages from Elon Musk and the White House. First, the scare in the skies, Italian fighter planes following a passenger jet with 214 people on board. Officials say a security threat forced the plane to reverse course. Viewed from inside one of those fighters. The aircraft landing safely, passengers and crew taken off the plane for authorities to perform a complete sweep. The details just coming in. The chaos and confusion over Elon Musk's social media ultimatum, telling more than 2 million federal workers to explain their recent accomplishments at work, will face termination with a deadline of tomorrow at midnight. Dozens of government agencies, including the State Department and FBI, are telling their employees not to respond. Those workers now caught in the middle, not knowing what happens next. Selena Wang reports from the White House. New details in a deadly shooting at a hospital ICU in Pennsylvania, a gunman taking staff hostage with patients nearby, and the growing memorial for the officer who died a hero. Our team is in York County. Nearly 3 years after the Russian invasion, pressure mounts on Ukrainian President Zelensky to strike a deal to end the war. Details are Ian Pannell. He's willing to give up for peace. The update on the condition of Pope Francis, what doctors are now saying more than a week after he was admitted to a Rome hospital. The urgent search for more victims in a deadly romance scam. The FBI alleges the suspect stole hundreds of thousands from unsuspecting people she met online. The nail-biting move just in the nick of time that prevented crash on the train tracks. And America Strong tonight. How the kindness of strangers led to one magical moment on the mound for a special fan.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this busy Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. There are several developing stories as we come on the air, but we do begin with yet another harrowing ordeal in the sky. An American Airlines flight diverted to Rome after a security threat. The video tells the story of 2 Italian fighter jets escorting the plane with 199 passengers and 15 crew members on board. It was not until later that authorities determined that the threat received in an email was not credible. This was the view of those fighter jets from inside the plane. The flight, which was heading to New Delhi, India, from New York's JFK airport, ultimately landed safely in Rome. Authorities say it was inspected and cleared to depart again for Delhi.
ABC's Morgan Norwood leads us off tonight from JFK Airport.
Tonight, this American Airlines plane escorted by Italian Air Force fighter jets, landing in Rome after being diverted due to a security threat. American Airlines Flight 292 departed New York's JFK Airport Saturday night with 199 passengers and 15 crew on board, headed for New Delhi, India, abruptly turning around over the Caspian Sea and flying to Rome, where American has a base of operations.
The captain came on and said that there was diversion due to a security issue. There was no other clarification or details given at that time.
A senior official telling ABC News the flight was diverted due to a bomb threat received over email, though the threat was deemed to be non-credible. Indian officials insisting the aircraft be inspected prior to its landing. Video from inside capturing those Italian jets trailing the American flight. That plane touching down in Rome, passengers bussed to the terminal for screening as authorities conducted a security sweep of the aircraft.
Everything was surprisingly calm. Like, in your mind, trying to play out scenarios like that, you think people were in a panic, but that wasn't the case at all.
In a statement, Americans saying the flight was diverted due to a possible security concern, adding safety and security are our top priorities, and we apologize to our customers for the inconvenience.
And late today, American Airlines gave an update on that flight, saying it will remain in Rome overnight to allow the crew time to rest before taking off for New Delhi tomorrow. Lindsay?
Chupa Chups Melody Pops. Taste the music.
Anxiety in the skies lately, Morgan, thank you. Now to Elon Musk's new attempt to slash the federal government, federal workers were told to list their accomplishments or face termination. But some unions and agencies, including the new FBI Director Kash Patel, told workers to pause on the order. Late word tonight that the Trump administration is firing 2,000 USAID workers and placing thousands of others on leave. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Lang.
Tonight, President Trump's cabinet defined Elon Musk's order to federal workers, telling their agency employees to hold off on responding to an email from the Office of Personnel Management asking for 5 bullet points detailing their previous week's accomplishments. The pushback coming after Musk posted an ultimatum on social media, demanding federal workers justify their jobs before midnight Monday or face termination. Musk writing on X, failure to respond will be taken as a resignation, but several agencies telling workers to wait. Newly installed FBI Director Kash Patel ordering his workforce to pause any responses. Senior leaders at the State Department saying no employee is obligated to report their activities outside of their department chain of command. And tonight, the Department of Defense telling employees that the department will respond on their behalf when and if required. Acting U.S. Attorney in D.C. Ed Martin was one of the few senior officials to encourage his employees to comply, calling it a good opportunity to highlight the importance of our work. The largest federal workers union calling the email unlawful and an attempt to bully hardworking Americans. Sources tell ABC that even though Trump publicly urged Musk to get more aggressive on Saturday, top White House officials were caught off guard, the White House refusing to comment publicly. Even some Republican lawmakers questioning Musk's tactics.
If I could say one thing to Elon Musk, it's like, please put a dose of compassion into this. These are real people. These are real lives.
And Lindsay, more breaking news tonight. USAID says it's firing 2,000 workers and putting all but a few remaining staffers on leave around the world. This comes after President Trump and Elon Musk have vowed to dismantle the agency that provides humanitarian aid around the world. They claim it's wasteful. Lindsay?
Selena Lang from the White House, thanks so much. Next tonight, the new details in that deadly hostage situation at a hospital in Pennsylvania. West York Borough Police Officer Andrew Duarte was killed in a shootout with the suspect. 3 hospital workers and 2 police officers were also injured. Authorities say the suspect, armed with zip ties and a handgun, targeted the hospital's ICU. Late word tonight about the motive. ABC's Christian Cordero was at the scene.
Tonight, the flag is half staff.
with candles and flowers flooding the entrance of a police department in West York, Pennsylvania, honoring 30-year-old officer Andrew Duarte, shot and killed in the line of duty Saturday after authorities say a gunman targeted the ICU of UPMC Memorial Hospital, carrying a semi-automatic handgun and zip ties, taking staff members hostage before getting into a firefight with law enforcement.
We have 2 officers hit by gunfire.
Multiple officers and 3 hospital personnel injured, the suspect killed. That chilling scene unfolding with patients nearby.
It did happen in an area where individuals were being treated.
The borough manager today telling us this small community and its department of a dozen officers are in shock.
The community loved him. He certainly had a dedication to keeping every single person here safe. And for that, we will always hold him in our hearts very deeply.
You were saying he chose this community
He did.
specifically.
He did. He moved here from out west. He believed in this department, and we were very grateful to have him here. The time was too short.
Lindsay, a senior official, tells ABC News the shooter appears to have targeted that ICU in anger, saying the suspect was upset over a perceived lack of care for a family member who died in the ICU within the past week. Lindsay?
Christian, thank you. Overseas now to the latest about Pope Francis. The 88-year-old pontiff is conscious and receiving oxygen after a respiratory crisis, but remains in critical condition. Prayers for Francis are coming in from around the world, some leaving tributes outside his hospital. Christian, ABC's Marcus Moore reporting live for us from the Vatican. Marcus, tell us the latest with regard to concern about his kidney.
Well, Lindsay, the new update from the Vatican says that Pope Francis remains in critical condition, but also that he's showing signs of a decrease in kidney function, but they add that it's mild and is under control. The Vatican also says he's continues to need extensive oxygen treatment, but he has not had a prolonged asthma attack like the one they reported yesterday. Now, in a sign of good news, the Pope attended Mass this morning at Gemelli Hospital. The Vatican says members of his medical staff joined him. And the 88-year-old pontiff has been in the hospital now for 10 days. And Lindsay, in a written greeting today, he thanks people around the world for their prayers.
Those prayers continue, Marcus. Thank you. Now to the war in Ukraine. Tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion. Overnight, Russia launched a record number of drones, more than 270 against Ukraine. It comes as a major shift in U.S. policy is unfolding, and what President Zelensky says he's willing to give up for peace or NATO membership. Our Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell reports tonight from Ukraine.
Tonight, Russia launching its biggest ever drone strike on Ukraine, the capital city of Kyiv under attack. Anti-aircraft fire lighting up the night sky. Ukraine has weathered assaults like these every single day for almost 3 years. But now President Zelensky under political attack too.
Hello. Hi. Good morning.
Trump, who called him a dictator for not holding elections. You're the president of Moscow to step aside and Washington to hold elections. Would you be willing to give up the presidency if it meant peace for Ukraine?
The
Ukrainian leader telling me he's ready to resign if it means peace, and offered to stand down if it meant membership of NATO, saying, I'll do it immediately, without a long conversation about it. With Ukrainian intelligence saying Russia may declare victory on the 3rd anniversary of their large-scale invasion into Ukraine Monday, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pushing back.
Vladimir Putin can attempt to take all victory laps he wants. The reality is the president is focused on one thing only, and that's stopping the killing and the destruction across Ukraine and ensuring an enduring peace.
The Democratic Senator Jack Lee, speaking to Martha Raddatz, condemning what he calls President Trump's alignment with Russia.
This is just someone who admires Putin,
Hey, Bayan.
committed to closing up to all the threats.
Ukraine to give billions back to the US for the military aid.
Hello.
Insisting the money was a grant and not a loan, but it is ready to work with America and with the government. Lindsay, tomorrow's President Trump, and then the following day, the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer also at the White House. These next few days will be critical in deciding what kind of deal, if any, is possible. Lindsay?
Ian, thanks so much.
Oh, you're not in the show. You're in the show. Here comes the monster.
High-stakes election for a new chancellor. Let's bring in ABC's Inez de la Plata.
Monster Kitty. Monster Kitty.
Across Europe, The exit polls show the Conservatives leading with 29% of the vote. The far-right AFD party, meanwhile, coming in second with a record 20%, the most votes for a Republican since World War II. This was the party that Elon Musk and Vice President Vance would signal for. President Trump today saying it's a great day for Germany. This election coming at a pivotal time for Europe and NATO. Friedrich Merz, the Conservative leader, is now poised to become Germany's next chancellor. He is pro-Ukraine, pro-NATO, and has been critical of President Trump's outreach to Russia. This evening, he said this administration mostly doesn't care about the fate of Europe. Lindsay? Inez, thank you. Now to a stunning development in the Middle East. Israel has deployed tanks to the northern portion of the West Bank for the first time in more than 20 years. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the intensive operation after several bus explosions near Tel Aviv on Thursday. This also comes as a federal ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas hangs on by a thread. Now to a Las Vegas woman charged with what's being called a deadly romance scam. Laura Phelps is now being held in Mexico. Investigators allege that she targeted older men she met through online dating. The FBI is now urging possible victims to come forward. Here's ABC's Zareen Shah.
Tonight, the FBI urgently trying to identify additional victims they believe this Las Vegas woman may have targeted in a series of romantic scams.
This is a romance scam. We have not seen one like this in recent history.
43-year-old Phelps now in custody in Mexico. U.S. authorities accusing her of luring older men she met through online dating services, drugging them, and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from them.
Once she incapacitated the victim, stole their cars, accessed their bank and brokerage accounts to withdraw cash, used their credit cards to make a variety of purchases.
The 21-count indictment alleging Phelps sold one victim's Apple stock worth approximately $3.3 million and unsuccessfully attempted to remove the $3.3 million from his E-Trade account.
We believe Phelps kidnapped one of these victims by heavily sedating him and pushing him across the U.S.-Mexico border in a wheelchair due to his inebriated state. Phelps then took him to a hotel room.
Why? Bakit mo ibibenta? Hello? Ayaw kitang buhatin, nangangalmot ka.
Phelps faces charges including bank fraud, identity theft, and kidnapping charges related to death. He was convicted, could face life in prison. Zareen, thank you. The measles outbreak in West Texas is getting worse, with more than 90 cases, and many of the infected are unvaccinated children. The epicenter of the outbreak is in James County, Texas. Here's ABC's Maria Villarreal.
Tonight in Texas, the worst outbreak of measles to hit the state in more than 30 years is getting worse. The Texas Department of Health now reporting 90 cases in West Texas alone. That's 32 more cases since Tuesday. 16 patients had to be hospitalized, nearly all of those infected children, and in almost every case, the patient was unvaccinated.
We layer of infectious virus in close quarters with many kids that are unvaccinated. That is a recipe for a disaster.
Daycare centers where some are too young to be vaccinated, on alert for fevers and rashes.
Newborn babies, they don't receive the vaccine until they're 1 year old.
And children can't get the second dose to be fully vaccinated until they are 4. Texas requires vaccinations, but allows for parental and religious exemptions.
Maria, thank you. Now to a deadly series of avalanches in the West. 8 deaths reported this month. Colorado hit with more than 200 avalanches over the past week. The state is now taking steps to keep snowboarders and skiers safe. More now from ABC's Jacqueline Lee.
In Colorado, authorities conducting controlled avalanches to try to stabilize the snowpack. As more than 200 avalanches occurred across the state in the past week. This comes as we learned one avalanche claimed the life of a snowboarder west of Denver yesterday. Across the western U.S., 8 people in all killed this month alone, more than a dozen since December. And caught on body camera, this extraordinary rescue of a snowmobiler buried alive by an avalanche in Summit County, Colorado last Monday. Rescuers frantically digging for the victim, who had been trapped for more than an hour. Avalanche experts say someone buried is unlikely to survive after 15 minutes, but miraculously, the man was conscious, speaking with rescuers and Lindsay, an avalanche advisory.
Here's why. Rosmarks works 2.4 times faster and lasts 8 hours. Like repeatedly discovered the lead free speech propagating censorship. There's so many discovering the risk people for memes and thought crimes and newspapers pressuring American companies to censor Americans on its behalf. How can you be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
We actually spoke to him about that yesterday. We thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it, so was I, and so was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about it? We have concerns on the conduct of their particular impact of America. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made in Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one that unites us with Europe. As much as anything else, it's these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so Americans are threatened by it. We're going to need to take action in that regard.
Today, that's how Americans feel the
It's actually a very important question. We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary and others at lunch yesterday, and the Secretary of Commerce Monday followed up in private meetings last night.
Her latest achievement comes only 4 months after she suffered a serious injury in competition. When we come back, America Strong, the first pitch and what it meant to a young girl and her family. Finally tonight, America Strong, the little leaguers, the little girl, and the lesson for us all. An extraordinary.
You wanna go out? You wanna go out?
While 6-year-old Olivia's older brother is at Little League practice, the mother-in-law approached 3 players from another team. When the boys included her in their circle without hesitation, her mother, Mandy Mulligan, took out her phone to capture the special moment.
They started probably a 10-minute long ring around Rosie session with her, and every time they would clap for her and tell her good job and high-five her.
Olivia was born with Down syndrome and is mostly nonverbal.
They weren't afraid of different, and they just put down a need to be cool and just played with her.
Those boys later shared their reaction.
She might not be able to talk, or maybe not even play sometimes with us. But I think the way that makes her special is that she's just a great person inside. That whenever she has like the biggest smile ever, and like really really nice, still and friendly.
After the Queen Creek Little League heard about Olivia, they invited her to throw out the first pitch at Friday's opening night game. A home run of a different kind. Not afraid of different. I'm Linda Davis. Have a great night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Moore, America's most watched newscast.
And Carl's Jr., when you buy one big Carl over spicy chicken sandwich, you can get a second for just $1 more. Yeah, any combination you're breaking, the second just $1. Only Carl's Jr.
BatangFirst brings by Swan. 48 hours of odor and wetness protection. Swan. No nonsense self-care for men.
Tonight, several developing stories, and as we come on the air, one officer is dead, several staff members shot after a gunman opens fire inside a Pennsylvania hospital. New concerns for Pope Francis, his condition worsening as he struggles with a respiratory infection. And President Trump's military purge, top leaders forced out. First, that chaotic scene inside a Pennsylvania hospital. Authorities saying a gunman opened fire in the ICU, shooting 3 staff members and 3 officers, one of whom was killed. A suspect then hostage before he was shot and killed. What investigators are telling us tonight. Pope Francis in critical condition after suffering a new respiratory crisis. Francis given oxygen and a blood transfusion as his condition worsens. The Vatican now saying the Pope is not out of danger. President Trump touting the unprecedented shakeup in the Pentagon. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff out. The Navy's top admiral fired too. The president also praising Elon Musk and Doge, urging Musk to be even more aggressive in shrinking the U.S. government.
Kinalmot mo ako, man.
Mula sa ABS-CBN News Center Manila, ito ang TV Patrol Weekend!
Kinalmot mo ako eh.
Pilipinas, kami ang mga ako ng Pilipino.
Nagbabalita at
Hey! Hey!
saan man sa mundo.
Hey!
Balikaan sa pagkamit ng aksidente. 14 ang sugatan sa karambola ng siyam na sasakyan sa Tuong Batangas Sabado ng umaga. Nadamay pa ang isang convenience store sa Panggaan na sinasabing nag-ugat matapos mawala ng preno ang isang truck. Nagpapatrol, Liza Aquino.
Mga nagka-UP-UP at wasak na kotse, nakatagilid na truck at naipit na motor. Ito ang resulta ng matinding karambolang sangkot ang siyam na sasakyan sa barangay Luntal alas 6 ng umaga nitong Sabado. Basag din ang harapang bahagi ng convenience store na nadali sa aksidente. Opisyal na investigasyon, galing ng Calaca, Batangas at papuntang Cavite ang dump truck para mag-deliver ng lupa nang mawalan umano ito ng kontrol. Unang sumalpok ang truck na may kargang lupa sa isang pampasahirong bus at dumiretso sa bahagi ng isang convenience store at doon inararo ang 4 na kotse, 2 tricycle at isang motorsiklo na nakaparada malapit dito.
Yung dump truck matis galing from Calaca going to Cavite. So, matisipin naman dun sa may sitio, Baiko, barangay Luntal to Batangas, ma'am. Pababa kasi siya, ma'am. Nawalan siya ng preno.
Agad sumaklol ang rescue teams at pulisya para maalis sa mga nabanggang sasakyan ang ilan sa mga sugatang pasahero at driver.
Eventually, ma'am, nagkataon din na malapit yung lugar ng insidente, ma'am, sa isang basa terminal. So, nung yung papalabas-labas, ma'am, tinamaan rear point. Unfortunately, ma'am, nung wala na control, yung driver sa kanyang truck, nakabangga pa sila ng ibang mga sasakyan.
Agad namang isinugod sa ospital ang 14 na nagtamo ng minor injuries. Karamihan sa mga nasugatan ay sakay ng bus. Nasa kustodiya na ng Tuli Municipal Police Station ang driver ng dump truck na posibleng magharap sa reklamong reckless imprudence resulting in multiple injuries and damage to properties. Liza Aquino, ABS-CBN News.
Isa pang aksidente sa Pilipinas. Sugatan ng batang magkapatid na naipit sa sinasakyang jeep matapos mahagip ng truck na bumangga sa 3 poste ng kuryente sa Parañaque City, Viernes ng gabi. Ayon sa driver ng truck, nagka-problema sa preno ang kanyang sasakyan kaya sinubukan niyang ibangga ito sa poste sa kahabaan ng West Service Road. Nahagip din ang isang closed van at 2 jeep. Itinanggi ng driver na nakainom siya o inaantok habang nagmamaneho. Ayon sa otoridad, galing SLEX southbound lane ang 14-wheeler at palabasanan ng sukat exit nang mangyari ang insidente. Dinala sa ospital ang magkapatid. Hawak ngayon ng pulisya ang truck driver na maharap sa kasong reckless imprudence resulting in multiple physical injuries and damage to property.
Arestado ang hold up sa isang kainan sa Parañaque City. Nahulihan din sila ng traffic trafficking at Granada. Yan ang CCTV patrol ni Bea Quadra.
Sa kuha ng CCTV, makikita na dire-diretsong naglalakad papasok ang babaeng nakasulat isang lalaking nakatig habang palingon-lingon sa 3 pang lalaking pumasok sa loob. Ang deklara na pala ng hold up ang mga suspect. Sinubukan pang pumasok ng 2 sa kanilang locker room para magtalo pero sinundan sila ng isang suspect na nakapula. Ang isang nakaitim na suspect ay pumunta sa counter para kunin sana ang pera na sinundan din ng isa pang suspect. Nang mapagtantong wala silang mahanap ay sinundan nila ang kasabot nilang nakapula sa locker room at naghanap ng cash drawer kung saan nakuha nila ang 13,000 piso kasama ang isang cellphone na nakacharge sa tabi nito. Agad tumakbo palabas ang mga suspect sa kayang dalang mga motorsiklo. Agad nila sa gawa ng backtracking at
follow-up operation ng mga operatiba ng Parañaque Police gamit ang CCTV kung saan napunto nila ang mga suspect.
After po ng incident, tumawag po yung crew ng restaurant sa ating police station. At dali-dali po nag-respond po ang mga police at nagkaroon po ng investigation. So, na-identify nila yung ginamit na motor. Nagandak po tayo ng follow-up operation.
Unang naaresto ng mga otoridad ang dalawang suspect edad 24 at 26 anyos sa Barangay La Huerta na nagturo din sa kanila umanong mastermind na edad 32 anyos na nahuli sa isang bakanteng lote sa Barangay Baclaran, Parañaque City. Nakuha mula sa mga suspect ang isang kalibre 22 na baril, isang hand grenade, dalawang pen gun, mga bala at isang itim na motorsiklong ginamit nila sa krimen. Walang kaupo ng dokumento ang mga bariling hand grenade at motorsiklo ayon sa PNP.
Pero may naka-identify naman po doon sa area na itong mga to talagang mga pasaway sa area nila.
Hindi na na-recover ang ninakaw na cash at cellphone ng mga suspect. Nakakulong na sa Parañaque City Police Station ang mga suspect na nakaharap sa mga reklamo robbery hold-up, paglabag sa RA 10591 o Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act, RA 9516 o illegal possession of firearms, ammunition, and explosives at BP Omnibus Election Code. Bea Quadra, ABS-CBN News.
Sinibak sa pwesto ang hepe ng PNP anti-kidnapping group habang iniimbestigahan pa ang pagdukot sa isang 14 anyos na estudyanteng Chinese-Filipino sa Taguig City noong February 20. Epektibo ang pag-alis sa pwesto kay Colonel Elmer Ragay itong Biyernes. Ayon kay Philippine National Police Chief General Romel Marbil, layo ng investigasyon na maibalik ang tiwala ng publiko sa pulisya at mapanagot ang sinumang mapapatunayang nagkulang o nagpabaya. Dagdag pa ni Marbil, handa rin sila makipagtulungan sa gagawing investigasyon ng Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs kaugnay sa manong ay pagtaas ng bilang ng abduction at kidnap or ransom cases sa bansa.
Update naman mula sa Vatican, nakatulog na ng maayos si Pope Francis at nagpahinga sa unang bahagi ng umaga. Bago ito ay dumana siya ng isolated bronchospasm na humantong sa pagsusuka at hirap sa paghinga. Sumailalim umano sa bronchoaspiration ang Santo Papa at non-invasive mechanical ventilation. Naging maayos naman ang kanyang pagtugon sa gamutan. Ayon pa sa Vatican source, sa ngayon ay hindi kritikal ang lagay ng lider ng simbahang Katolika dahil na rin sa pagbuti ng kanyang kondisyon nitong nakaraang araw. Matatanda ang February 14 nang ma-ospital si Pope Francis sa Gemelli Hospital sa Roma dahil sa hirap sa paghinga. Nagpahirap pa sa kanyang kondisyon ang pneumonia sa kanyang magkabilang baga.
Sabaw na nagpapainit sa katawan. Yan ang piniglas ni Ina Evans, aka Ate Dick, sa pagpunta niya sa Kalamban ng Luna. Pero ikinagulat niya ang sangkap sa mahiwagang sabaw. Alamin kung ano itong nagpapasarap sa soup number 5 sa ABS-CBN News digital series na Exotic.
Let me ask you something. Ano ang soup number 5?
Ang soup number 5 ay mahaba, malamig, masarap.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm interested. Shut up and take my money. Pagpanilapan mo yan? What's that? Oh, na.
Ito yung balls ng
Balls ng baka. Ang granada.
Ito naman yung
Yan.
arit ng baka.
Ito ba yung mga nababalitaan ko na nakakapang-init daw po ito ng katawan kung baga kung tinatawag nila aphrodisiac daw siya yung nakakapang-enhance na magnanais yung magkaroon ng romance. Ano po ba?
Sabi nila, siguro, kasi kaya binabalik-balikan nito.
Okay.
Samahan si Ina Evans at ang iba pang content creator sa pagtikim ng mga hindi pangkaraniwang putahing Pinoy sa Exotic. Uploaded po sa ABS-CBN News YouTube channel. Pinagahanap nga ng mga pulis ang ang flagman na nagpadaan sa dump truck na may kargang bato sa Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge sa Isabela nitong Huwebes ng gabi. Ayon sa Kabagan Police, pinayagan umano ng flagman ang driver ng dump truck na may dumaan sa tulay. Mayroon din umano itong sinusundan na isa pang dump truck. Makakasal ang dump truck na may bigat na mahigit 100 tonelada. Ito ang sinasabing dahilan ng pagbagsak ng bahagi ng tulay. Hindi naman umano maaharap sa kaso ang driver ng truck at ang kanyang pahinante dahil mga biktima rin sila. Papatawan umano ng parusa ang flagman dahil sa hindi niya pagsunod sa regulasyon sa tulay. Samantala, sinabi naman ng Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council na nananatili pa rin sa ospital ang mga nasugatan sa pagbagsak ng bahagi ng tulay. Patuloy naman umano ang investigasyon ng Department of Public Works and Highways o DPWH sa insidente.
Yung sa ating mga biktima nung pag-uho ng tulay at yung CSID, nakasalukuyan pa rin kung nasa facility kung saan sila transfer sa mga iba't ibang organization ang sinusubukan na reach out at magbigay ng tulong para sa mga pamilyang na ralis ng accident. Isa ngayon ang nasa hospital is yung isang pamilya, gayon din po yung isang individual na nag-drive ng isa pang vehicle na nag-involve sa accident. Overall, apat po sila.
Nag-ikot sa mga probinsya ang ilang senatorial bets sa unang araw ng Marso bilang bahagi ng kampanya sa halalan 2025. Mas sinisitagan din ni dating Senador Kiko Pangilinan at Bam Aquino ang kampanya.
What you looking at, babe?
Cars on cars.com.
What's wrong with this one?
I just got promoted, so I'm looking for something more. Ciao.
2 million cars, 2 million possibilities. Cars.com. Where 2 minutes?
The problem girl, she's the one who will end the world. Something I'm going to tell you. Like, this is God. What if I let it go? How much did you destroy this place? I think you're
Oh,
There's a problem, we fix it together.
Ishmael! Ishmael!
We have our moments.
Ishmael.
Feeling under the weather? Be prepared.
No more, no more, no more.
It's the first thing to take. It's the first sign of body
Sit down.
fever and fatigue, so you can feel like yourself again. Oscillococcinum by boron.
At paglalakad ng mga plataforma sa gitna ng hindi pagpasok sa top 12 sa
Sleep now, sleep now.
survey ng Patrol Arlene Delgado.
Nagbahay-bahay sila dating Senador Kiko Pangilinan at Bam Aquino para suyuin ang mga residente sa Mandaluyong. Tubulak na tubong barangay Bulo ang Kiko Bang Tandem mula ng isang ferry kasama sina Akbayan Party's first nominee Chel Joklo at kanilang campaign manager na si Senador Lisa Monteveros. Dala nila ang pangakong tututukan ang pagpapababa ng presyo ng mga bilihin, reforma sa sektorong edukasyon at tiyak na trabaho.
Yung batas para sa libreng kolehiyo, napakarami na tulungan pero kailangan pondohan pa. Kailangan yung libreng pabaon, mapondohan din para yung pang-araw-araw na gastos ng mga bata, mabigyan din ng tulong.
Kayang papakain ang presyo ng bigas at iba pang bilihin. Kinakailangan lang nagtutulungan ang eksekutibo at ang legislative branch para matiyak ito. At dapat walay sinasanto.
Hindi nawawala ng pag-asa ang Kiko Bang Tandem sa kabila ng kanilang ranking sa survey. Sa huling SWS survey noong Pebrero, nasa 15th spot si Pangilinan, habang 17th spot naman si Aquino. Nasa 11 to 14th spot naman sila sa February 2025 survey ng independent public opinion research firm na WR Numero.
Kailangan sipagan pa, kailangan sumilin pa, manligaw pa sa mga kababayan natin. At hindi naman po dito, hindi kami nag-iisa. Marami po kami kasama at habang ang taong bayan gumagalaw, kami po ni Senator dito, very, very positive po kami na sa mga susunod araw, makikita natin lalabas at lalabas ng taong bayan.
Kailangan siyempre yung aming mensahe mapapababa ang presyo ng pagkain, yung food security, saka pagsuporta sa agrikultura. Kailangan pa rin natin paigtingin. At naniniwala na naman ng ating mga kababayan sa tulong ng media na yan ang ating sinutulong ay dadagdag pa.
Sinadya naman ng independent senatorial candidate na si Ariel Querobin ang barangay Daang Tubo sa Quezon City. Ilan sa kanyang tututukan ang pagbibigay ng disenteng trabaho, libreng regular na medical check-up sa senior citizens at persons with disabilities. Samantala, mga kabataan naman ang sinuyo ng PDP laban senatorial candidates sa Danang Davao City kagabi kasama si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Nakipagjamming pa ang ilan sa kanila gaya ni Senator Christopher Bongo, Philip Salvador at Senator Robin Padilla. Binigyang diin nila ang kahalagahan na mailayo sa kriminalidad at illegal na droga ang mga kabataan.
Gusto na ko ilayo ang mga kabataan sa illegal na droga.
Samantala, tumalo naman sa isang patitikon sa Batangas ang ilang miyembro ng senatorial slate ng administrasyon. Harvey Lagado, ABS-CBN News.
Iginiin ng Korte Suprema na hindi hadlang ang kulangan ng pera para kumandidato ang isang individual sa halalan. Ano ba mga dapat isaalang-alang ng mga tumatakbo at kung bang pera-pera lang ang nababayad ng halalan? Yan ang pinutukan natin sa Alamin ang Batas. Dito sa Silang Cavite, abala si Juan Poliesca sa kanyang restaurant business kung saan ipinagmamalaki niya ang kanilang bulalo. Ang hindi alam ng kanyang mga suki. Minsan nang sinubukan ni Poliesca na tumakbo presidente ng bansa noong halalan ng 2022. Pero agad siyang na-disqualify ng Commission on Elections at idineklarang nuisance candidate o panggulo sa halalan. Dumulog sa Korte Suprema si Poliesca at sa July 24, 2024 desisyon ng Korte na isinapubliko nito ng Enero 2025, pinawalang visa ang pag-disqualify sa kanya ng COMELEC. Moot and academic na ang desisyon ng Korte Suprema kung tutusin at masaya na si Poliesca sa kanyang pamilya at negosyo.
Hindi mo mawala yung magpasalamat muna talaga sa Diyos. Kasi ito yung sinasabi ng karamihan na napaka-imposible. Pero tayo yung nandun na naniniwala na hindi, may andyan pa rin yung integrity. Gawin natin yung tama kahit wala nakakakita.
Sa desisyong isinulat ni Senior Associate Justice Margaret Leonel, binigyang din ng Korte Suprema na bumasta para sa kampanya pagiging miyembro ng political party at posibilidad na manalo ay hindi kailangan para patunayan po ng mga kandidato na maging opisyal ng gobyerno ayon sa Omnibus Election Code. Sabi pa ng Korte Suprema, nakalulungkot na ang pagbansag kay Poliesca ng nuisance candidate ay nakaangkla sa kanyang kawalan ng mental na kapasidad para sa disenteng pangkampanya. Ipinagbabawal din ang property requirement sa mga kumakandidato. Nang maalala pa ang Korte Suprema na ang isang kandidatong walang makinarya o pera ay hindi pwedeng ikumpara sa mga taong gusto lang gawing katatawanan o hindi igalang ang halalan. Sa pagtalakay ng Korte Suprema sa issue ng nuisance candidates, hinanggit bilang ilang nakaraang mga desisyon ng Korte tulad ng papabor sa isang individual na una rin binansagang nuisance candidate noong 2019 senatorial elections. Sinabi din ng Supreme Court na noong 2022, umabuso ang COMELEC ng idineklarang nuisance candidate si Norman Marquez noong 2019 senatorial election dahil lang sa kawalan ng pruwebang may pera siya para mangampanya niya. Sabi ng veteranong election lawyer na si Atty. Romulo Macalintal, sinunod lang ng Korte Suprema ang sinasabi sa konstitusyon na hindi dapat nagdadagdag ng requirement ang COMELEC.
Ang mga qualification ng isang kandidato ay siya ay dapat nasa citizen of the Philippines, siya ay registered voter, able to read and write, at saka yung age qualification. Walang sinasabi sa ilalim ng salitang batas na ang isang kandidato ay dapat may pera para makatakbo.
Pagamat pinisisyonan ang kaso ni Poliesca ng nakaraang administrasyon ng COMELEC, iniit ni COMELEC Chairperson George Garcia na sinusunod ng komisyon sa ilalim ng kanyang liderato ang tinatakda ng batas.
When it comes to nuisance cases, basta tatandaan nyo, wala kami disqualify o dinitira ng nuisance dahil mahirap sila.
Hindi pa na-correct ang mga disqualify nila ngayong halalan 2025 ay mga itinuturing nilang wala talagang totoong intensyong tumakbo at ginagawa lang katatawanan ang halalan. Pero ang mga gusto talagang magsilbi sa gobyerno saan wala sapat na pera ay hindi nila pipigilan. Kaya kapamilya, ipaglaban ang karapatan at igaling alamin ang batas.
Ibinahagi ni Jonathan Jojo Eusebio ang kanyang karanasan sa Hollywood bilang isang Pinoy martial artist at stuntman na direktor.
Mas maganda kung magbigay na uli siya.
Nagpapatrol Hollywood correspondent Yong Chavez.
Mula sa pagiging isa sa pinaka-in-demand na stuntman, direktor na ngayon ng kanyang sariling pelikula, ang Pinoy filmmaker na si Jonathan Jojo Eusebio. Dekada rin ang ginugol niya para makamit ang tagumpay. Ating child star naging Oscar winner na si Chloe Kwan.
Kind of a lifelong dream. Like a certain feeling I get when I used to watch these type of movies, and I held that feeling for my whole career. So the chance to be able to let the audience feel what I feel, it means a lot to me.
Ayon kay Eusebio, sa magiging martial artist niya nakuha ang lakas ng loob para magsikap na matamo ang kanyang mga pangarap.
I always like to go challenge myself after a certain time. Like I think as a creative person, you want to kind of do new things.
Nakatrabaho na niya ang maraming Hollywood superstars gaya ni Keanu Reeves, Charlize Theron at ilang Marvel stars. Nakatawa rin kung binalikan ang naging reaksyon ng kanyang mga magulang nung una siya nagtrabaho bilang stuntman.
It's a Filipino thing, but my parents were nurses.
Yeah.
When I graduated from school and I decided to become a stunt person, they're like, what? Right? You're wasting your education, right? But ultimately at the end, they wanted me happy.
Yeah.
And so now they know I'm happy, and they're proud of me. They're very supportive.
Bukod kay Chloe Kwan, bida rin sa Lovebirds ang Oscar winner na si Ariana DeBose. Yong Chavez, ABS-CBN News, Hollywood.
Can dark spots be removed? Dr. Gundry, can age spots be removed? Absolutely. Age spots are not actually caused.
Ba yan?